Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he invented smoking a french fry, Sweet Sean's a Kovacs from the internet.
That's right, I was a little fat kid.
And now he's just hungry for french fries. Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and boy, do I love a broad comedy.
Holy moly. We are back, everybody. Welcome. It is May, and it is Anie-May here at Hero Movie Podcast. And we every week this month, save for next week, where we'll be doing Doctor Strange, as there's no surprise there. But outside of Doctor Strange, all throughout the month of May, we will be talking Anie-May movies. That's right. And, Anie-May Dad here has kicked it off for us for the first time. So we'll talk about his movie in a second. But the idea is, hey, let's just go in and try to get anime movies that we've hopefully never seen before, some new stuff. Broaden our horizons a little bit here. And before we do all that, though, we do want to say a big thank you to the people that support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Doesn't matter what level you support at, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. And, of course, you get to vote on the movie that we watch each month, as you did last week and everything. So, as you know, it's the beginning of the month. We'd like to say thank you to everyone who did support us. So go over there, support us, patreon.com/HMP. And, of course, if you can't afford to support the show monetarily, you can always give us a 5-star review on iTunes, a.k.a. Humdinger. And this week, we've got one from Tom Hooligan. Great name, by the way.
Lovely.
And it's 5 stars, and it's entitled, "This Show is Inevitable." And it reads as follows. You should listen to this show. You'll like it if you like good things. If you don't like good things, you'll also like this show. And if you like literally nothing, you will still like this show.
Ooh.
But if you like bad things, you will still like this show.
That makes this a 4-quadrant show.
There is absolutely no reason not to like this show. So in honor of Star Wars, I now put in place Order 67. Listen to Hero Movie Podcast and enjoy it. Believe me, it's easy to enjoy. That's from Tom Hooligan.
Tom Hooligan, if you think I'm not stealing forever, Order 67, listen to Hero Movie Podcast. You are incorrect, and you don't know me at all.
I believe we just found a new T-shirt design.
I think. You think I'm the first one to think about Order 69?
Nice.
Wait. I got a new stinger.
It's gonna be.
It's my. It's gonna be May stinger.
I love it. That's our anime stinger.
So patreon.com/HMP, 5-star reviews, all that kind of good stuff. I would give you a trailer for this movie, but as you might imagine, a trailer in another language is not so easy to understand. So, I don't know. Bruce Leslie, let's figure this out, shall we?
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Oh, what do we got, Bruce?
Well,
actually, we should probably.
voice.
I should have said the name of the movie at some point before I introduced all that, shouldn't I?
A silent voice.
You go ahead.
The movie is A Silent Voice, or The Shape of Voice, but we will call it A Silent Voice. And A Silent Voice was produced by Kyoto Animation, and this studio has a nice history of producing good content. The studio was founded in 1981 and made such beloved animations as Full Metal Panic, Violet Evergreen, and Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Now, the company's origin is very, very sweet in that it's kind of a love story. It was founded by married couple Yoko and Hideki Hata. And it's funny because I'm used to marriages to people named Yoko breaking groups up, not founding them. You guys catch what I did there?
Yeah.
Oh, John Lennon. Well, in 2009, Kyoto Animation started hosting the Kyoto Animation Awards and giving prizes in 3 categories: original novels, manga, and scenarios. And these awards are given to amateur creators, and they can lead to their work either being published or adapted as anime. Kyoto Animation definitely has a reputation as one of the more fan-friendly and accessible companies. But unfortunately, tragedy can even strike the best of us. On the morning of July 18th, 2019, at about 10:30 a.m. local time, an explosion rocked the Studio One building of the Kyoto Animation Complex. You can imagine the fear and chaos that ensued as flames rapidly spread throughout the workplace. The office staff were simply trying to do the best they could to produce some wonderful anime and had no idea that for many of them, this would be their last day on Earth. So what happened? Well, a few weeks before the incident, Kyoto Animation had received a number of death threats. Company president Hideaki Hara said they did not know if the threats were related to the incident as they were sent anonymously, but he had informed both police and lawyers of said threats. They reportedly received up to 200 threats in the year before the attack. After the National Police Agency were informed about these threats in October, they temporarily patrolled the head office. Now, earlier on the morning of the attack of the studio, because an attack is what it was, a mentally disturbed individual purchased 40 liters of gasoline and walked a little over 6 miles while pulling a cart that was bearing the gasoline to get to the studio. The person made an improvised bomb from the gasoline that prompted the explosion. He also poured a quantity of gasoline on individuals at the site and set them aflame before finally pouring the last of the fuel on himself and lighting himself on fire. Flaming people ran out into the streets outside the building looking like scenes from hell itself. The fire grew by the entrance and other workers were trapped inside the building, most likely asphyxiated from the smoke before the flames ever touched their skin. But the fire raged for over 4 hours. After the smoke cleared, it was determined that 34 of the 70 people who worked in the building had died. Some of the victims were very difficult to identify due to the effects of the flames on their lifeless bodies. And 2/3 of the victims were women because Kyoto Animation was one of the few studios in Japan which would treat female animators with equal respect in this patriarchal environment of Japanese animation. 2 women who survived the initial attack later died from complications, bringing the total death toll to 36. The perpetrator survived setting himself on fire. The man admitted to perpetrating the vile act and claimed it was because Kyoto Animation had plagiarized scenes from one of his novels. Investigators have viewed the novel in question, and its contents were confirmed to have no similarities to any of Kyoto Animation's published works. The man did have a prior criminal record and a history of mental illness. He spent 3.5 years in prison due to an armed robbery conviction. He still awaits his trial and sentencing. So, Adam, now that I've warmed up the audience, why don't you hit them with a hilarious list?
Yeah. Well, if that comic connection wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this blast of a good time because this sucker's got everything. We got kids bullying the hell out of each other. We got childhood embarrassment. We have bullying a deaf girl. Multiple attempted suicides, mistaken identity, X's on faces, a Benetton ad of Anie-May eyes, a bastion of questionable beauty skills, or excuse me, that's a misprint of a word there. I said a beautician with questionable beauty skills is what I should have said. Notebooks, fireworks, some of the most amazing backgrounds you've ever seen. It's a slow burn, but a very slice of life kind of way, and I don't think many traditional mainstream anime fans might be ready for something like this. It's a movie that will remind you of how cruel mankind can be, but also how amazing it can be if we just tried. This movie has everything. Bruce, why did you pick this?
Well,
this is your pick for Anie-May, and what do you
it's
got?
an amazingly well-made movie. First off, I mean, it evokes emotion like you may not expect. I think it subverts some anime expectations for sure. It's one that I thought might get some tears out of you, Adam, because I know you're notoriously hard to make cry from a movie.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Let's just
and I thought that it would have like the real legitimate artistic merit to maybe not offset Sean as much as if I just picked like a Dragon Ball Z movie. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, I think there's a whole lot to discuss here. A lot to talk about, but I love this movie. I think this is like a movie that probably is worthy of much more mainstream recognition than it gets.
Well, as I said to you, I believe off air, I said this to you. Well, you know, I think this is a fantastic piece of fiction. I think that it's beautiful. It's well made. It's lovely. I will never revisit this again. This is like the Leaving Las Vegas of anime to me, where, wow, this movie is really great. I will never watch this again in my life.
I absolutely concur. I like this entire movie. I'm bawling my eyes out the entire time. There are so many, and we'll go over some stuff, but there's just so many like relatable moments in different ways, you know, obviously not one-to-one with stuff, but like, you know, you can obviously look at a lot of things. We were all, you know, 6th graders at one point. We were all middle schoolers, high school kids at some point. you can see many, things, echoes of your own life within this sort of stuff and apply it. And it is one of those movies that will just beat the ever living crap out of you. And ultimately it is like, it leaves you feeling better at the end, more or less. But it's a tough watch. And that I want to bring up an email here. Because we have, oh shucks, I forget. Hold on, give me just 2 seconds here because it just timed out on me. But we got an email from our good buddy King Solomon's Frog, and I want to read that for you here. It says,
nice.
It says, Dear HMP, in the 4 years listening to HMP, I've learned a lot of both explicit and implicit lessons, like explicit lessons like story and structure and aspect ratios, and implicit lessons like it's not a good listening experience if the hosts are negative all the time, even if the movie is awful. So I'm hoping to learn something this month too. I've really tried before with Anie-May. 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong, right? But I don't get it. I do like some more than others. One Punch Man has been my favorite so far, but none of them are compelling to me. It was never another, if there was never another anime made, I wouldn't miss them. I watched about half of A Silent Voice, and it feels like it's already been 3 hours. I'm hoping to learn another explicit lesson, something enlightening about anime this month, because I've already learned another implicit lesson. I need a burner profile on my streaming services for Anie-May so all the algorithms start clogging up my selections with shows I won't ever watch. Apologies, that comes from our good buddy King Solomon's Frog. And I understand, you get 2 anime things in your Netflix queue, boy, you better watch out. You're going to get I have a passing interest in this. Stop trying to force it on me, Netflix.
Well, I guess one explicit lesson, I should say.
As bad as
I would
me.
say about anime is much like comic books. It's a medium and not a genre.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much any kind of story you can imagine can be told through the medium of comic books. It can be told through the medium of anime. So that's, I guess, an explicit lesson is I would say that really there's what you would know more about anime is how broad the breadth of what it contains rather than how it's all alike.
Yeah, but Bruce, I mean, you understand this better than anyone else. I mean, geez, you've gone through the same things that we have where, there's certain mediums that it just turns people off immediately. Whether it's the superhero movie or genre at this point, whether it's a comic book, people hear that something was based on a comic book immediately. There's certain people who are like,
nope.
Oh, well, then this isn't going to be nearly as good.
I know people, if they hear something's a musical, they won't even bother to check it out.
That's true. And so, there's certain aspects where and for me, I have the same problem. Whereas if there is a dragon in something, I literally will shut it off. I hate dragons so much that my suspension of disbelief just goes away instantly. And so I understand that. But King Solomon's Frog, I'm going to say something that is going to sound harsh at first, but take it for the intent that it's meant. This specifically is not an easy thing to get into.
No.
It's very difficult at first, especially this. It is very difficult subject matter, but it enriches your life if you stick through it, because what it teaches you is someone else's perspective, which is, for me, that's what this movie was for me.
Mm-hmm.
It did not get me in the feels, this movie, but what it taught me someone else's perspective. I've never been suicidal. I have never suffered from depression. But I get the blues like everybody else, but not clinical depression, which is what at least two of the characters have in this movie. And so seeing the world through someone else's eyes is an interesting way to go about things. Now, with me saying that to you, it makes it sound like I'm making you like, hey, idiot. And
just watch it, bro. It's not that.
And that is not my intent at all. I do understand that there are certain things like, just the subject matter plus the medium is like that's two hurdles to get past, and maybe that's too many. And I understand, especially if you have limited free time. But for me, what this movie taught me there's certain things I didn't know before going into this, and there's certain things that I didn't understand, that I still don't understand, where like I can't think of a moment right now without looking at my notes, but there's a couple of certain things where like I know that the koi fish are supposed to represent something. I don't know what they're supposed to represent because I'm not part of the culture, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's things like that in this movie where I can't. It's a cultural block. So actually, there's three hurdles now, because there's the cultural, there's the medium, and there's the subject matter, and
the language language barrier. So it's like,
but I listened to the sub on this. I listened to the dub on this, not the sub. And I'm glad that I did, because the voice acting in this one was very good. It was not, it wasn't people screaming. And so that part was great. And it's not three people, doing all the voices.
Yeah. We only hired these guys, and they're going to do their best variations for you, but they're all going to sound close to the same, but not here. No. But
King Solomon's part, to get to my point here, and this is literally the point I'm trying to stick here, is that when you're watching something that is difficult like this to watch, what you hope to get out of it is you hope to get something new that you didn't know before you started watching the movie. And this movie does do that. For me, it did, where, oh, okay, I didn't understand this part of the Japanese culture or what have you. But there are a few things that I learned watching this movie. That alone made it worth the 2 hours to watch this movie. But I can totally 100% understand. I'm out. Like, I totally get it. So if I can teach you a lesson, that would be the lesson when it comes to stuff like this.
And this is not like, for those of you watching or listening who are thinking about watching, if you haven't watched yet, this isn't like an anime where you'll start out with something and then the other shoe's going to drop and then it gets all crazy anime on you. Doesn't really happen here.
This is a straight story, it's a personal story. And, it's very true that there are some cultural blocks or cultural differences. But one thing that impressed me the first time I saw this is just how universal it is. Like, I wouldn't have guessed that elementary kids who then go on to be high school kids have the same kind of distribution of bullies and bullied, and some people get insight to it and regret it, which is something I can relate to. I relate a lot to the male lead in this movie at times. But then also the fact that they have like the girl who just stays a mean girl. Like, I've known people that never changed. It's like crazy. How do they never gain insight and stay exactly the same 20 years later? But there are people like that. And then some of the people who are the worst or most cruel you ever know, they absolutely regret everything they did, and they become nice, kind people. And I was kind of surprised at how universal that was and how they show all the different coping mechanisms. I mean, we get the person who just runs away, basically. Yep. And, you kind of know that person too, who just is always nice and polite on the surface, but at the same time, they can't take anything to their core because they just can't handle it. And, the chubby kid with the green hair, the guy that never had a friend before and becomes like the most loyal friend ever. Like, all of this, you could have set this in like a 1985 Americana movie. I mean, it probably wouldn't have been as dismal, and it would have been a little more hopeful, but those same archetypes fit in,
Yeah, I mean, you throw a couple more sweeping vistas on this and dial it over to America a little bit more. You got a Terry Gilliam movie or something, it's just there's so many different ways that this sucker could go, but the fact that
there is a 1980 movie that basically is the same subject matter. It's just, the comedy's turned up to 11, which is Better Off Dead.
Oh yeah.
You know what? True. Very true. I didn't even make that connection.
But I just thought of it just now. So I'm not some genius.
Also, though, I think that the part that gives people most difficulty is the extended cruelty at the beginning of this movie.
Yes. And it keeps happening. And there's even a montage of the cruelty, which you don't see very often in movies.
But I think that's one of the high points of this movie. I think it was important for the filmmakers to make us just understand just how bad this situation is. Mm. Because if you just show a little bit like American 80s sitcom style where the bully takes your lunch money and pours your milk on your head and then walks away. That is not nearly as painful as what we have to endure at the beginning of this.
No,
and if you're not enduring the pain at the beginning, you don't understand the story that's being told here. And this is a 2 hours plus movie, but it was, based on a manga that ran for a really long time. So imagine how much you're dwelling in the cruelty and despair if you're reading that manga week to week. So I like that aspect of it, that it had the courage to really make that human connection and try to be real world with the cruelty. And also, later when everybody meets back up and you think, okay, this is where it's going to have the new uplifting side where people have gotten older and they're ready to befriend one another. But then you still see there are complications there. There are people that thought because they weren't actively involved, that sitting by and laughing while it happening didn't make them a bad person. You have people that still want to just pick up where the bullying left off. I mean, you see this complicated thing. And really importantly, you see the effect that bullying can have on the bully. Or, I think back to the things I did when I was younger that I'm not very proud of, and they're done out of insecurity because you feel like you're not liked. So you have to try to get the attention on the one person you perceive as weaker than you or something like that. And, we get to see his bizarre home life. There's no mention of where his father is. For some reason, they never, ever show us his sister's face, but we know that he has a sister there with an infant or a toddler daughter that's his niece. And like I said, I've only watched this twice, but every time I feel like there's something more to be explored. And I wonder exactly what they're saying about the fact that we don't even know what his sister looks like, or that's a very conscious choice because they show the sister's boyfriend or husband, who I think is an American soldier who was stationed at Okinawa.
I feel like he had to be American because they made his face look kind of goofy. And he just had a goofy look. He just got back from deployment, which suggests military, and there's no Japanese military, but there are American military bases in Japan, and he's a black guy, probably. But he just had a dumb look on his face though, compared to everybody else. He just looked, I'm American.
That perfectly describes most of the Americans I see in my house. They all have dumb looks on their face, especially when the dog got into something and nobody knows why.
Could have been anyone. But
I love the way that it's able to connect in such a real way. Not only is it hard for fiction to connect with person in a real way, but then you make it animated fiction that's not speaking your primary language. In fact, one of the main characters doesn't really speak verbally at all. I mean, she does try to communicate verbally, but primarily it's through sign language, and to cross all those boundaries and to feel as real. Because if it didn't feel real, it wouldn't have been uncomfortable watching it. When everybody, I've never met anyone yet who's watched this and didn't feel uncomfortable.
It's true.
And they're doing something great.
And I will say to you that it does feel real. I'm sure this has come 90% of this is fictionalized, but it feels real. And I listened to the English dub of this, and the actress who is doing the voice of the deaf girl is also deaf. Just to add to the realism of the movie.
See, that's a detail I wouldn't have known, so I'm glad you brought that, but that's an awesome detail.
And it makes I will tell you that when that character starts speaking and I'm hearing a voice come out, I was like, I had to look that up, because I was like, there is no way they have they have a full hearing person in that sound booth. That would be
very tasteless, the way that she speaks.
The most tasteless thing they could possibly do on this very tasteful made movie. Oh, no. And so when I looked it up, she is in fact
the voice
deaf.
of the deaf girl was the late Gilbert Gottfried.
All I could think of is them just going, why are you taking those cans in there with you? Stop it. It's terrible. I'm sorry.
It was so I will tell you also, Bruce, that this is the best thing that you've ever suggested that we watch. It is by far the best thing. It's so moving. It's so touching. And so I will no longer make that knock against you again, or whatever it is next time. It is one of those.
I also recommended Painkiller Jane. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's killing it.
Mm-hmm.
2 for 2, you mean?
Uh-huh. Which one of your friends was involved in that movie?
Yeah, my good buddy Mr. Nakajima did on this one. He's a good guy.
This was a really, this is a very moving, very, very well-made movie. Like I can't say that I love the movie. It's not one of those, but it's not that kind of movie.
Yeah, you
Like,
don't walk out with a song in your heart. That's for sure.
Man, I got to see 15 more just like it.
It kind of falls into that Schindler's List category where you have to respect it, but
Yes.
you also can't, like, if you call it your favorite movie, you're going to get some weird looks.
You know what it reminds me of? It's the anime version of the scene in Naked Gun where Leslie Nielsen and Lisa Marie Presley are walking out of the movie theater laughing, and they had just seen Platoon.
Yes. Yes.
This thing is just absolutely beautiful. Like
Sorry, Priscilla Presley, not Lisa Marie.
That'd have been what she'd been about 4 when that was
12.
It tracks. With the Presley
it's in the
women's
family.
history.
It is in the family. You're right.
But the backgrounds and animation and stuff on this are just unbelievably stellar.
They are.
There are just some moments where you can, like, you could just pause this at any time and just look at the screen for 10 minutes because there's just so much going on, so much, like, just tiny little work on things in the background, stuff that you just don't see, but really bring to life this place. And I swear there had to have been a lot of different locations that were very based upon actual real locations because they're just too dead on looking.
Yeah, they gotta be.
Because if you see some of them, you're like, that's got to be a real place somewhere. Because man, oh man, the intricate level of detail that is in this is just astounding to me.
So, one of the things I think that I checked it when we first started talking about this is that, one of the very nice touches of this movie is that the main character doesn't make eye contact with people. And so I couldn't figure out what they were doing at first because, you're looking at people's knees and people's crotches and people's shoes. And then I think it was about 10 minutes in, I was like, oh, this isn't some creep making this movie. This is a character that can't make eye contact. I get it now.
And
it really helps when you see the X's on the faces.
Yes.
And this was one of the things that hit home most for me. Because I spent the majority of my early kid years not being able to look at anybody in the face.
Sure. I get it.
But because when I saw it happen, I was just like, oh, I know exactly what this is. You can't look at him because for me, it was my eyes and stuff, and I just felt like everybody was always judging me and always looking at me, so I never made eye contact. I had teachers that would report to my parents that, like, he's being disrespectful and stuff, and my mom had to just sit there and be like, he's not looking you in the eye, not because he's disrespectful to you, it's just because he's bothered by people looking at him and people judging him, which is what they do to, like, little kids. Do you see it in this show?
My heart goes out to you on that one, Adam, because I've had to write letters for so many children to so many schools because of that exact kind of, I don't know what to call it, short of ignorance, total lack of understanding, which you would think, like, teachers have had more than one kid come through there that have this condition. Why they keep acting the same way, I don't know. But yeah, my heart goes out to you because you're not alone on that one. That has happened to, unfortunately, a lot of kids with nystagmus.
Mine too, Adam. But that didn't give you carte blanche to make fun of that deaf girl.
No.
I don't know why. I don't know why you had to pick on her.
And then there's another case where that, like I said, so much of this thing kind of hit home. One of my friends in early elementary school, like from first grade, his name was Clint. Clint was had a lot of disabilities. Clint was a little person. He was half the time kind of confined to a wheelchair. He had braces on his legs and everything. just bad news all around. And he was poor. He just didn't have a lot of friends and stuff. And like, I don't want to say he had no friends, but like, come recess time, who's playing with the kid in the wheelchair?
Sure.
And so,
no, man, geez, it's amazing.
I mean, that's why I love this kind of movie. It connects in a way that a lot of stuff we watch and talk about doesn't connect to. It gives us
It's
a chance
true. And
to
it's
have conversations like this and to talk about, it really hits me hard because I do have to say that there were times when like middle school, junior high was kind of rough for me. But then in high school, I started to be a little bit more popular. So people that were once my friends, I would bully and make fun of. And that's made me feel like garbage, for having done that. Particularly, I mean, one guy was a pretty darn good friend of mine when times were rough for me. And then he had some health problems and he had a neurological condition as the result of an infection that he had. So he kind of, when he walked and moved his hands, they kind of flared out. It's called a chorea. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but
I don't know that.
Yeah, but like when you walk or whatever, your hands twitch, and he used to love to draw, and he couldn't draw anymore because of the twitch that he couldn't control in his hands and his feet. And I would make fun of the way he twitched, and he had been one of my best friends ever when I didn't have very many friends. And I watched this, and it just brings back a whole lot of the like horrible regret I've had over the bad things I did when I was younger.
Bruce, what I'm remembering right now is that you and I had that conversation a couple of weeks ago, I believe off air, where we were basically talking about how we were starved for real entertainment,
Yeah.
How, when you watch so many of the kind of things that we have to watch, and I'm not bashing Marvel movies. I still love them just as much as I did 15 years ago, I promise. But after a while, you want to start watching something else also. And so, when you run into something like this, that is so deep. And yeah, it didn't get me like it got you guys. Yesterday I saw a movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. That movie got me hard. I mean, I was the biggest crying sucky baby in the world in that movie. And it got me twice where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I've never cried so much in a movie.
Same here with Sonic 2. Cried for totally different reasons, but
how much was that per ticket? I have 5 members of this family.
I had 2.5 hours this weekend that I could do anything I wanted, and I did this.
So so when you come across something like this, like even something that isn't necessarily my bag, I do like that I got the opportunity to see this thing. And that's really what I come out with is that, okay, like I said at the beginning of the show, like the perspective of someone else's life and what that feels like to them. And it feels so real, even though it's not. It does feel like a real thing that, you walk out of it and you're like, okay, so I saw that. And now I know a little something else.
This is one of those that I think, dependent upon the specific audience, I guess, like kids should probably watch this, like to some degree, like as an educational thing in a weird way. Cause like, it's not, it doesn't, thank God, it doesn't go any super weird anime avenues. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, the problem though, Adam, is that dumb kids are not going to be able to sit through this.
Yeah. I mean, it's long for us. And like King Solomon's Frog said, like, he was like an hour into it. It does feel like 2 hours because it's not that it's slow particularly. It's kind of a slow burnish, but like, if anything, it's just emotionally taxing.
But like, if you're a 15-year-old mean, dumb kid and you're starting to feel uncomfortable watching this movie, you're going to start making jokes.
Yeah. Or pick up hints. Like, oh, we can. I never thought about bullying somebody that way.
Yeah, well, my daughter saw this when she was 15. She's 16 now. She loves the movie. She's seen it like 4 times, cries every time for obvious reasons.
Sure.
So it's good to know. I mean, I think nothing is perfect. Nothing is universal. But I honestly think kids are actually better today than they were when we were kids. if for no other, I love my dad. I love my mom. You know, my mom's not with us anymore. My dad was not around when I was growing up, really. Kids these days are better than we were, if for no other reason, the fact that their parents actually pay attention to them now.
It's true.
I mean,
and that's true.
You were very lucky, Adam. You were like the exception to the rule.
Believe you me, I talk to other people and I just go, I get that I'm different. I know.
And this is where my tinfoil hat comes on. Also, there's not lead in the gasoline anymore that people are huffing, making them meaner and dumber. that is there. I mean, that is a fact.
Oh man, I gotta start huffing some better gas. Then I've been doing it wrong all the time.
I've always been a diesel huffer, so that's what makes me special.
Is that why everybody calls you Cock Diesel?
That's right. That's one of two reasons.
I figured from Kentucky you'd definitely be a
man. I set that meatball up for you so hardcore.
But here I do want to say a little bit about the ending of the movie.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, because people know we're spoiling movies here, but this is one you can just talk about the emotion and I have to spoil the specifics. And how many movies have you ever seen that feature 2 attempted suicides? Usually one attempted suicide either sets off the movie or is the climax of the movie. But when's the last time you saw a movie where one sets it off and the other is the climax? I mean, that is also kind of a ballsy move, I think.
Yeah, and, I mean, well, right out the gate, like seriously, scene number 1 is him just going, here's some money for you, and here's everything that I'm doing. I've set everything up, and now I'm going to go kill myself. And you're like, geez, what a way to crack into this film.
Yeah, let's let you know what you just, if you got popcorn, you better eat it now.
Yeah.
This is not a popcorn flick. It lets you know what you're getting into from the beginning.
Oh, boy. But yeah, having the second one in there, and again, so well shot and choreographed and everything, to where her going over in the hand, kind of just with the dangle and everything, having that ledge there. There's just, again, specifically with like that ledge and everything, I'm like, that feels like something that's real. Like they did not just design it like that. They just kind of said, oh, there's a place where a thing is like this. This will be the place for her to grab onto.
And then the absolute heartbreak of what happens to the person who's, the guy comes to save the girl and he, is the one who takes the tumble, is an absolute heartbreak. Then when we realized, man, what really got me the hardest the first time I watched it is we've seen this weird little sister, which, by the way, didn't have me fooled for a moment. I never thought she was a little boy like the other people in the movie did.
Dude, at first I'm sitting there, I'm just like, so that's a girl, right? And then they're just like, well, it's a boy. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's just a feminine-looking boy. Okay. And then all of a sudden they're just like, that's her little sister. I'm like, but wasn't that what we all thought at first?
Yeah, that's exactly right. She never fooled me for a minute. But what really got me the first time is, I thought she's just this weird kid that's like a goth kid taking pictures of dead animals and dead insects and stuff.
Yeah, very.
But then when she says the reason she was doing it is because she knew all along for years that her sister was suicidal, and she thought if she showed her enough of what death looked like, she wouldn't want to kill herself anymore. That is probably what made me bawl out loud the hardest the first time I watched it. Now, I was set up for it, so it didn't catch me off guard the second time around, but that is just like a beautiful artistic touch that is missing a lot. Like, it's that little extra touch that isn't necessary, but man, does it hit me with so much power when that was revealed.
I liked that, but at the same time, too, I had a second thing going, like, didn't it go to your head there that it might just do the opposite? That it just kind of goes like death.
You
that
also
sounds
got
like,
to understand,
you see,
how
that's
old
an
is
option.
Her sister? 13. She's just doing the best she can. And I think she probably blames herself in retrospect. She's probably saying to herself exactly what you just said. But, she doesn't want to betray her sister by telling their parents. But at the same time, she doesn't know what else to do. So she tries that. And by the way, do you think Nikon paid for that product placement?
No kidding, man.
I will say this. I loved all of that stuff. I loved all the proper product placement. Nothing was fake. They had an iPad that had all the proper, the icons and everything on it. It was just like, this is great. I thought it made it real to me, as opposed to just being some fake thing. You saw a Nikon camera that looked like everyone that you've ever seen. It's great.
Yeah. And using it as binoculars, I thought that was kind of a clever little twist on things, introduced the camera.
A little Rear Window-esque.
Neat idea.
But then at the end, man, because this is such a realistic movie and how it deals with emotion, at least in my perception it is. And then at the end, when they're showing all the X's fall off people's faces now that he's out of the hospital and he's promised to try to be better. And it's supposed to be hopeful and uplifting, but at the same time, I understand that depression and mental illness is a chronic condition and that he's having a good time right now, but he's not actually getting any treatment. And it's only a matter of time until it comes right back like it was before, if not worse.
And you've seen him previously go through stuff trying to really force himself through and be happy and just do all of those things. So you've seen him attempt to do this before.
And we're thinking, okay, finally, he understands how Shoko feels about him. He's returning those feelings towards her. But just the reality is people that are like 17, 18 years old that get together don't have the smoothest of courses ahead of them. I think all three of us can say that that's a fair thing to say. They're going to have a really rocky road. And then you throw the mental illness into it. And this is just a setup for more and more tragedy on down the road. Like, I feel like there will be more suicide attempts between these two before their story is over. And that part makes me sad again. Like, I look and I'm thinking, well, it's got this hopeful, uplifting moment and things have worked out. And then I realize, you know what? This is like Indian summer. I don't know. That's probably not a politically correct term, but it's like you think summer's here, but then another snowstorm's just around the corner before spring really shows up.
Yeah. Ultimately, though, everything... It works so well that it almost works too, like I said, it works too well. It works so well that you're just like, I don't want to see this again because it's so good. I loved every moment of it. Please, dear God, never. The other thing that I was thinking about that, like, I mean, outside of some of the other aspects, is the awkwardness of teenagers and social relationships between people, just friends and people that you're, maybe romantically interested in. Oh, God, all of that crap just felt sadly so real, just that awkward everything. And I'm like, oh, God, you just start reliving so many really terrible moments in your life where you just want to shake the character and just go, I know the answer now and you're doing it wrong.
Guys, how viable do you think a business would be if it charged you to sit in a room with cats? Like, that feels like something that probably is real in Japan, but would never fly in the U.S.
Well, I will tell you right now that I have two friends who they spoke at length about how there are these cat rooms in Japan and how badly they wanted one in Atlanta. Like and I literally said to them, I was like, man, I think there's maybe 10 people in Atlanta who would want to go there. And I'm standing in front of two of them right now.
I feel like if you like that place, you'd be so insane, you would spend ludicrous amounts of money going there.
Maybe.
It might be like taking advantage of this. It's like the guy that sells somebody with Alzheimer's a new car every day of their life and they don't have any regrets about it. That's how you'd have to be to run the cat place.
Or what they did with comic books in the 2000s where, like, look, we have basically the same people here, so we're just going to keep trying to sell them more and more stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know, man, but I like the idea of the cat. I don't even know what you call it. It's not a cafe. There's nothing there but the cats.
I believe that they called it a cat tea room. Is what I think.
You'd have to sell some Benadryl next door for people who didn't realize how bad their allergies were.
Are you a crazy cat lady whose landlord is super uptight and only lets you have 4 cats? Boy, have we got a place for you.
I want to open up a place like that, but for reptiles.
Oh, man. Listen.
Just let the snakes and lizards crawl over you while you sit on the couch.
I will say, just as a tip, generalized tip for everybody out there, if you ever find a lady with lizards, go ahead and do yourself a favor and run. Just get on out of there. You don't want to be near that. Oh, I got a snake. Bye. Goodbye. If you're a lady,
same goes for
that lady's got a snake, you better just hit the road, Jack. Just get on out. You don't need to be there no more.
Me and my friend Lloyd almost opened up a pet shop called I've Got Worms.
I have met at least one person who had an eye injury because they let their tarantula sleep in their bed with them.
What?
You don't want to, and it was a lady, so you don't want to date her, I'm telling you.
I saw some video of like this little girl. She was on one of these like TLC shows or some crap like that where she had pet cockroaches, and they were like Madagascar hasten cockroaches. They're like the size of a dollar.
Man, Malagasy hissing cockroaches are an important part of when my wife and I first started dating, but I won't go into that here.
Sexy, sexy. You keep that bedroom talk to yourself off of this family-friendly show, sir. We don't want to hear it. That is not what these people signed up for. They signed up for depressing anime where they're going to want to kill themselves at the end of it.
I spent 3 months in Madagascar and never saw a cockroach. Come to Nashville, Tennessee, and they're everywhere.
Wow, guys, you know what a touching episode. So lovely, so nice. Sean, what did you choose for anime? Gundam.
And I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be awesome.
Big robot.
Shooty, shooty, bang, bang. There'll be more.
So much nostalgia overload is going to hit us when we watch that. I can't wait.
That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Well, before we get to our review, final Robin rating here and everything, we have to ask ourselves one pretty darn important question, one that I think might be quite difficult today, but hey, he's done better than this before, is how does this movie relate back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone?
Well, I hope everyone's ready for a tonal shift.
You mean it hasn't been a laugh riot all this time?
Well, I don't know, laugh riot, but the tone will definitely be shifting here.
Mild bemusement.
Yes. Something to make you smile, maybe. Sly, it's Sweet Shanzi again. And this week, you're connected to a silent voice through something we've never spoken about before. And I'm not going to pretend this isn't a giant deal. It's a big day for me. I've had to bring up the TV show Las Vegas so much on our show and so often that I've gotten to the point where I feel like I could write a book based on a TV series I've never watched and will never watch, even if I were to write a book about it. But there will be no Las Vegas talk this week because this week I get to talk about Mortal Kombat 11, yes. A video game I haven't played since college, and I couldn't tell you the last version I played, but providing a voice for Mortal Kombat 11 is Sarah Cravens, who is the voice for the character Frost. I don't know this character because I'm old, but she gets billing over you, Mr. Stallone, so I'm going to guess it's a pretty large role. Sarah Cravens is also the voice of Miyoka Ashita, perfectly pronounced. You're welcome, everybody. In the American dub of A Silent Voice. So there's your Stallone connection this week. But I have a question for you, Mr. Stallone. Why would the makers of Mortal Kombat 11 choose to use John Rambo as a playable character in a game filled with magic and robots and monsters? I'm going to tell you why. Because he's John Rambo. And who doesn't want to hear the character say lines like, "Nothing is over," and "I'm your worst nightmare," and "You drew first blood, not me"? I think it's a weird fit, but it is a fit, except at the end of the game, where if you beat the game as Rambo, there is a about 12-minute long voiceover, and this is from the final scene of the game. This is just a segment. "I didn't ask for this war, but once it started, I had to finish it. Hands down, Kronika was the toughest enemy I've ever faced. All my tactics, my training, nothing that meant nothing against a god like her. In the end, it was a battle of wills." This is about another like 11 minutes, but I'm going to spare you the rest of that. What are we doing here? And Mr. Stallone, have you actually played the game? I can't imagine your boomer fingers being able to figure out how to move the pixelated version of yourself. Now, after looking at the reviews, most people seem to like this Mortal Kombat 11, but I found one review I just had to share because it's amazing. It's written by someone who goes by the name Backup 5362, and it's entitled, quoting here, it's entitled, "Feminist Combat 11, the cringe continues." Quoting, "That's some soy boy banter between those terrible characters no one asked for. Whoever wrote their lines was either a fat feminist or a skinny beta boy, because they're trying hard to portray the females as morally superior and the males as thirsty AF, yet magically respectful. Unlike the females, of course. But hey, eat it up, kids. You don't see the cringe and the pandering because you're 12. 1 star."
Oh,
Nice.
no.
Well, thank you, Backup 5362. Thankfully, you're out there speaking truth to power. Now, to give an example of the caliber of reviewer this man or woman might be, because it totally could be a woman. In fact, I'm really hoping it's a woman. They've also rated Aliens, the movie Logan, The Silence of the Lambs, The Matrix, Reservoir Dogs, and The Skateboard Kid with 1 star.
What?
Even though The Skateboard Kid is amazing and the talking skateboard is voiced by America's greatest export, Dom DeLuise. But what has she rated 10 stars? I'm glad you asked, Mr. Stallone. The Hangover Part 2.
Nice.
The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Wow.
And this is why I'm laughing. And K-Pax.
Yes, K-Pax.
Oh, yes, we all love that movie.
And there you have it. This week's Stallone Connection is voiceover talent Sarah Cravens, who looks like a pistol in her IMDb picture. We'll be back here next week. I hope you listen. Talk to you soon. Your pal, Sweet Shanzi from the internet.
I love all of those Mortal Kombat. It just feels like they're like, who do we? What's that? Artisan doesn't have the rights to Rambo anymore, and they're up for yeah. We'll take some of that, $30, and we can put Rambo in here.
They got RoboCop in it too. I played as RoboCop.
They do, and Spawn.
Oh man, it's what a time to be alive.
I just love the fact that somebody was playing Mortal Kombat and was like, "Oh my God, this is so feminist." The SJW.
Yes.
Mortal Kombat.
What in the heck?
SJW.
Who gets that as their takeaway message for Mortal Kombat?
Get out of here, you idiot.
Like people are getting their skin ripped off and then, a saw blade going through their entire body, and he's just going, these liberals.
Yeah, they made sure that Gloria Steinem okayed the final draft on that game before it went out.
Whatever, you communists.
Well, it's time for our old Robin rating system here on Hero Movie Podcast. Bruce, where does a silent voice fall in the Robin rating system for you?
I think it's just incredibly well done. It's an experience unlike any other animated film for me. So I'm going to give it a Dick Grayson. I mean, it goes straight to the top for me just by how much it's able to get its hooks in me and pull me into it. It's one of those things you want to look away and you can't.
Sean?
For me, it's a Tim Drake. Very good. It's a lovely, it's a lovely sentimental movie. I'm never going to watch it again ever, but it was a great experience. And thank you for recommending this, Bruce.
Yeah, Dick Grayson for me. I really loved it. It is a bit long. It is super taxing. It is not going to be for everybody, but if it is a thing that you can get through, I feel ultimately it is rewarding. It gives you, I don't know, I still think no matter what your age, you can take this with you. There's stuff in here that you just go like, oh yes, maybe we should all think about other people and what they're going through. And, whenever, I have to do this in customer service and stuff all the time. I don't know what anybody's day's been like. I don't know what's been going on before I got to this situation. So everything that comes to you, you have to go, I don't know what any of this is about. Let me listen. Let me see what's going on. Let me try to, see where people are coming from. And that's important. And that's what I think that this thing can do is actually give people a perspective that they might not have thought about before, or maybe they have thought about, but it's tough to confront because at least for me, I saw a lot of myself on a lot of different sides of a lot of different characters in this show. But amazingly good, absolutely beautiful, a tearjerker and a heart wrencher, but highly recommended if indeed you can get through it. But that is A Silent Voice. It is currently available on Netflix as we speak, so appreciate all of that. That is it for this week, everybody. We're going to take 1 week off of anime to cover a new film. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Bruce, in the meantime, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
Check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/C/Bruce Leslie. Lots of anime reactions and reviews. I'm going to try to spice it up, throw a few different things out there this week. So stay tuned to see what kind of things are coming. And of course, always the old standards like Death Note, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Attack on Titan. That stuff's all there.
Hold the phone. You like anime?
A little bit.
Huh. Sean?
So King Solomon's Frog, let me bring this up to you. you know how earlier you said that there are reviews that we do where, and I'm guessing in particular, you're talking about me here, where I had to learn not to be so dismissive and angry while reviewing things that I don't like I had to learn how to do with the WandaVision show. We have another podcast called Moon Knight 30 Questions where you get to see that in full practice in our next episode, where I'm going to be reviewing with these two gentlemen episode 5 of Moon Knight, where it is an all dream episode. And so you can imagine my love for that.
That was my favorite cereal growing up. Oops, all dreams.
Just an empty box.
So you will hear me not complain for a full hour about a show that I did not like.
We'll
Moon
see.
Knight 30 Questions.
Yes. So check us out there, everybody. That is it. Join us next week when we're going back to the theater for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. For Sweet Sean, the Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Porters. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Words like violence break the silence, come crashing into my little world. Painful to me, it's right through me. Don't you understand? Oh, my little girl. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary. They can only do harm. Vows are spoken to be broken. Feelings are intense. Words are trivial. Pleasures remain. So does the pain. Words are meaningless and forgettable. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary. They can only do harm. All I ever wanted, all I ever needed is here in my arms. Words are very unnecessary. They can only